while Europe whisks passengers between major cities at 200 miles per hour in sleek, frequent trains. Most Americans are stuck with a single daily Amtrak that crawls along freight tracks at highway speeds. This is UNT just about trains being faster or nicer. It's about two completely different philosophies on how people should move around their countries. So why did European rail become world-class while American trains fell so far behind? The answer starts with what happened after World War II. Europe lay in ruins, and as nations rebuilt, they made a critical decision: invest heavily in connecting their cities by rail. France launched the TGV program in the 1960s, Germany developed the ICE network, and Spain built the aviation system. These weren't just regular trains on old tracks, they were entirely new high-speed lines, purpose-built for passenger travel, with dedicated infrastructure that could handle speeds conventional railways never could. Meanwhile, America took a radically different path. The interstate highway system became the crown jewel of American infrastructure. Consuming massive federal funding throughout the 1950s and 60s, cities sprawled outward. Along these highways, and for longer distances, commercial aviation took over. The car became king, and passenger rail was left to wither. By 1971, private railroads had abandoned passenger service entirely, leading to the creation of Amtrak as a last-ditch effort to keep any passenger trains running at all. Today, the contrast is staggering. France's high-speed rail network covers over 1,700 miles of dedicated track, with the TGV connecting virtually every major city in the country. Germany's network spans over 1,000 miles of high-speed lines, seamlessly integrated with conventional rail to reach even smaller cities. Spain, despite having a smaller economy than many U.S. states, operates the second-longest high-speed network in the world. These aren't isolated lines, they form interconnected webs that make train travel the obvious choice for intercity journeys. The United States, by comparison, has exactly one true high-speed corridor, the Northeast Corridor between Boston and Washington, D.C., where Amtrak's Acela can briefly reach 150 miles per hour on small stretches of track. That's it. Everywhere else, passenger trains share tracks with freight companies, crawling along at speeds that would have been considered slow a century ago. The entire Amtrak system covers more geographic distance than European networks, but most of that mileage is shared track with severe speed restrictions. This infrastructure gap translates directly into journey times that tell the whole story. The TGV covers the 290 miles between Paris and Lyon in exactly 2 hours, averaging 145 miles per hour, including stops. That's faster than driving, more convenient than flying when you factor in airport time, and departures leave every hour throughout the day. Germany's ICE trains connect Frankfurt to Berlin, a distance of 340 miles, in under 4 hours. Spain's AVE gets you from Madrid to Barcelona, 385 miles, in 2.5 hours. Now look at comparable American routes. Chicago to St. Louis is 284 miles, nearly identical to Paris-Lyon. The journey takes 5.5 hours on Amtrak's Lincoln service, averaging just 52 miles per hour. Los Angeles to San Francisco, about 380 miles like Madrid-Barcelona, has no passenger train service at all. The proposed California high-speed rail project has been in planning for decades with no completion in sight. New York to Chicago, 790 miles, takes 19 hours on the Lakeshore Limited, averaging 42 miles per hour. You could literally make the journey faster in a car, even on America's best route. The Acela from New York to Washington covers 225 miles in 2 hours and 45 minutes, averaging just 82 miles per hour. A TGV covering the same distance would do it in 90 minutes. The infrastructure simply isn't there. The tracks curve too sharply, pass through too many grade crossings, and share space with slower traffic. European countries treated high-speed rail as essential national infrastructure, like highways or airports. They acquired land, built new stations, and created dedicated corridors where trains could reach their full potential. America made a different choice, and the result is a passenger rail system that can't compete with driving, let alone flying. The trains didn't get worse, the infrastructure around them never evolved, but infrastructure and speed are only part of the story. Even if American trains were slower, they could still be useful if they ran frequently and arrived on time. That's where the gap becomes even more apparent. Walk into any major European train station during peak hours and check the departure board. Trains to major cities leave like clockwork every 30 minutes, every hour, sometimes even more frequently. Paris to Lyon, 4 trains per hour during busy times. London to Manchester, 3 trains every hour throughout the day. Berlin to Hamburg, multiple departures hourly. This frequency transforms how people think about train travel. You don't need to plan your entire day around a single departure time. Miss your train, another one leaves soon. Meeting runs late, catch the next one. It's the same mindset people have with subway systems. The train is simply there when you need it. American routes tell a completely different story. The Amtrak Texas Eagle from Chicago to Los Angeles runs once per day. Miss it, and you're waiting 24 hours for the next one. The Crescent from New York to New Orleans, 1 daily departure. Even on busier routes like New York to Boston, you're looking at departures every few hours rather than every hour. This single fact makes trains impractical for most travelers. You can't build your schedule around train travel when there's only one option per day, and if something goes wrong, you're stranded. Then there's reliability. European rail companies face serious consequences for delays, both financial and reputational. Switzerland's rail system operates with legendary precision. Over 90% of trains arrive within 3 minutes of schedule. Germany's Deutsche Bahn, despite recent challenges, still maintains on-time performance above 90% on high-speed routes. France's TGV system consistently hits similar numbers. When delays do happen, passengers receive compensation automatically in many cases. This reliability isn't just a nice feature, it's culturally expected. Business travelers book trains confidently, knowing they'll arrive on time for meetings. Amtrak's situation is more complicated. On the Northeast Corridor, where Amtrak owns the tracks, on-time performance hovers around 80% respectable, but not exceptional. But on long-distance routes, sharing tracks with freight companies, the numbers collapse. Some routes operate on time less than 50% of the time. The Empire Builder from Chicago to Seattle, running on freight company tracks, can arrive hours late with frustrating regularity. Freight trains legally have priority despite federal law suggesting otherwise, and Amtrak has limited ability to enforce its rights. Now let's talk about cost, because this might surprise you. European trains, despite being faster and more frequent, are often cheaper than American trains. Book a TGV ticket from Paris to Lyon a few weeks in advance, and you might pay 30 to 40 euros, roughly the same in dollars. Wait until the last minute and prices rise, but advance planning rewards you with genuine bargains. Germany offers various discount cards and special fares. Spain's AVE tickets can be incredibly affordable with advance purchase. The Eurail Pass lets tourists travel across multiple countries for reasonable rates. Amtrak pricing follows a different model, that same-day flexibility Europeans enjoy. It costs significantly more in America. A last-minute Acela ticket from New York to Washington can easily exceed $200. Chicago to San Francisco on the California Zephyr costs several $100s for a basic seat, and that's for the 19-hour journey, averaging 42 miles per hour. Advanced booking helps, but the discounts aren't as dramatic as European systems offer. Here's the critical difference. In Europe, trains genuinely compete with car travel on cost. A family of 4 can often travel by train for less than the fuel costs of driving, especially with advanced fares. In America, driving is almost always cheaper unless you're traveling alone on a short route. This makes trains a luxury rather than practical transportation. A Paris-Lyon TGV ticket costs less than the fuel for driving that distance. A Chicago's T.H. Lewis Amtrak ticket costs more than gas for most vehicles, takes twice as long, and only departs a few times daily. European rail systems created a virtuous cycle. Frequent, reliable, affordable service attracts riders, which justifies more investment, which improves service further. America's system remains stuck in the opposite spiral. Low ridership leads to reduced service, making it less attractive, driving ridership even lower. The differences extend beyond the trains themselves to how they fit into the cities they serve. Step off a train in virtually any European city and you're immediately in the heart of things. Train stations aren't afterthoughts. They're architectural landmarks positioned at the city center, surrounded by hotels, restaurants, businesses, and residential areas. Paris Gare de Lyon sits in a dense urban neighborhood with metro connections to anywhere in the city. Munich's Hauptbahnhof connects directly to the subway, trams, and buses, all departing from the same building. You can walk to major attractions or seamlessly transfer to local transit that arrives every few minutes. American stations tell a different story. Many sit in isolated areas surrounded by parking lots, requiring a vehicle to reach or leave. Even in cities with decent public transit, stations are often poorly connected. Los Angeles Union Station is beautiful architecturally, but surrounded by highways and disconnected neighborhoods. Many smaller city Amtrak stops are literally just platforms on the edge of town with no facilities, no taxi stand, nothing. You need someone to pick you up, or you're calling a rideshare service and hoping one is available. This reflects a fundamental difference in urban planning. European cities developed around walkability, with dense centers connected by public transit. Even when they modernized, they preserved this pattern. Train stations became mobility hubs, where everything connects: regional trains, local trains, subways, trams, buses, bike rentals, all in one place. You can live car-free in most European cities without major inconvenience, because the transit system actually works as a network. American cities sprawled outward after the 1950s, built around automobile access. Highways cut through urban cores, parking requirements shaped development, and density became something to avoid rather than embrace. This makes train travel impractical, even when trains exist. What do you do when you arrive? If everything is 15 minutes away by car, rent a vehicle, defeating the entire purpose of taking the train. European visitors to America are often shocked that our cities require cars for basic errands that would be simple walks or transit trips back home. So, why did these two systems diverge so dramatically? The post-war period set the trajectory. Europe's devastated cities rebuilt with rail at the center because that infrastructure already existed and made sense to restore. Rail was seen as essential national infrastructure, deserving of government investment. Countries competed to build faster trains as matters of national pride and economic development. America emerged from the conflict with intact infrastructure and booming automobile manufacturing. The interstate highway system received massive federal funding, 90% of costs covered by Washington. Meanwhile, passenger railroads operated as private businesses expected to turn profits, which became impossible as travelers shifted to cars and planes. When these companies abandoned passenger service, creating Amtrak in 1971, it was set up for struggle from day one, expected to operate nationwide service with minimal funding, no infrastructure ownership outside the Northeast, and constant budget battles. The automotive industry's influence shaped policy for decades. Highway funding flowed reliably, while Amtrak fought for survival every budget cycle. Airlines received infrastructure support through airport construction and air traffic control. Rail got neither the funding nor the political priority. European governments treated rail as public infrastructure like roads. America treated it as a business that should somehow compete with heavily funded highways and airports. But let's talk about the actual experience of riding these trains, because that matters too. Board a modern European high-speed train, and you'll find spacious seats with tables, power outlets at every seat, reliable Wi-Fi, and quiet cars for working or resting. CAF cars serve decent food and real coffee. The ride is smooth and quiet. Overhead luggage racks are generous. Many trains have family areas, bicycle storage, and even play areas for children on longer routes. Amtrak's experience varies wildly. The Acela trains on the Northeast Corridor are comfortable and modern, comparable to European standards. Long-distance trains can be charming in a nostalgic way, with observation cars offering scenic views. But the ride quality suffers on freight tracks, constant stops, rough sections, swaying, and noise. Wi-Fi is unreliable. Power outlets exist, but not at every seat on older equipment. The cafe car offerings lean toward pre-packaged convenience food rather than fresh options. The comfort gap matters less than everything else we've discussed, but it reinforces the overall message. European systems were built for the passenger experience. While American trains feel like they're making do with what's available, one system says trains are how people should travel. The other treats them as a nostalgic alternative for people with extra time.